Good evening. Good evening. Welcome to Beyond the Pain live video. It's a joy to be with you this evening. We'll come here every Tuesday evening as God gives the grace and strength to share on our journey beyond the pain. How do we go beyond our life painful experiences to discover purpose? How do we discover something meaningful beyond what happened to us? It's a joy to have you with me this evening. Welcome. Welcome on Facebook, welcome on YouTube, and welcome on Instagram. At last week, Tuesday, I wasn't here because we had a webinar that I had already advertised, and that was Purpose Beyond the Pain webinar. And it was titled, I am hurting, I can't let go of the pain. I am hurting, I can't let go of the pain. If you missed it and you would like to have a replay, I will encourage you to send an email to irene.graceinthestorm. That is IRENE dot grace in the storm, not storms, grace in the storm at gmail.com. I will also share that on the platforms at the end of the presentation today, so that you can have it you can have the replay to watch if you missed the live event last Tuesday. And so today, what are we going to talk about? The topic for today's conversation is, can you see a future beyond the pain when the cause is irreversible? Let me say that again. Can you see a future beyond the pain when the cause of that pain is irreversible? Now we know that many of our painful experiences, the things that happen to us, are irreversible. We cannot just turn back the hand of the clock and say that, wipe that chapter out of our lives. We can go back and erase that experience. It's going to be a chapter in the story of our lives. The question is, if we cannot reverse what happened to us, if we cannot erase it, how then can we see a future beyond what has happened to us? Because what happened to us causes us emotional pain, and sometimes very deep and excruciating pain. And sometimes some of us are still going through this experience of excruciating emotional pain because of what happened to you. You can't change it. You can't reverse it. It has happened. How then can you go ahead and see a future beyond it? See, emotional pain often impacts our physical and our mental health. When we suffer from a trauma, something that overwhelms our capacity to bear it, when something something happens to us that shakes us in the core of our being, when we have those things that causes us to weep in the night and sometimes in the day as well, what do we do? If we don't manage it, it can impact our physical health. It can impact our mental health. And that's why we talk a lot here about processing the pain, healing from the pain, going beyond the pain. You see, emotional pain is some sort of psychological pain that comes from non-physical sources. Nobody can see on your body the wound, but your heart is bleeding. It might not, most of the time it's not physical. It's not because something hit you something that you can feel on the physical has hit you. Sometimes it does, because I mean, if you have lost a limb, if you have lost a child, something has happened to you physically as well. But more often than not, our emotional pain comes from non-physical sources. It could originate from hurtful words that have been spoken to us. I have had to deal with clients who were reeling from the pain of hurtful words for decades. For years and for decades, the words that were spoken, the hurtful words spoken to them, was still hurting in the deep places of their hurt. And I've had to deal with such an experience myself. Something that was said to me when I was a teenager, it hurt me so deeply that it took me over a decade to be able to get over it, to be able to process it, to be able to take a look at what was said to me and said, no, that is not me. That does not define my identity. These words cannot continue to, direct the way I live my life. And I had to deal with that and resolve it. And of course, I've worked with clients who I've had to support to deal with what happened to them, words that were spoken to them. And even as an adult, I have had mean words spoken at me. I mean, words that felt like dagger that was hitting my heart. And it came from places that was least expected. And so it hurt. And I had to take time to heal, to process from it, to process it and heal from it. So we can suffer severe emotional pain when hurtful words are spoken at us. It can come from a grief because of the loss of a loved one, something precious to us. When I lost both legs, I grieved the loss of my legs. When I lost my daughter as a stillbirth, I grieved the loss of my. It was painful. It was an emotional pain. And sometimes when we lose a child, when we lose a parent, when we lose a loved ones, it causes emotional pain and it hurts us. It can also come from regret. You've made a wrong decision. You have taken an action that has led you in the path that you would otherwise not have been on if you had taken time and sought counsel before you took that decision, before you took that turn. But you have taken the turn. Something has happened. There have been consequences of that bad decision. That regret can bring emotional pain. And so on and so forth. Emotional pain can come from different sources. And many times we can't reverse the source. And that's where we are at. How do we face a future when such things happen to us? And so such alarming experiences, negative emotions, and the deep pain of an unforgettable moment can continue to linger with us for years and years. And it makes us feel as if the future cannot be changed. I mean, the same outcome will continue to happen even in the future. We can't even see a future that is beyond that pain. All we are consumed with is the pain, that deep pain from that unforgettable moment. And sometimes that unforgettable moment may actually be a split of a minute, it's just a few seconds that this thing happened, and it is etched in our memory. And the memory of it lingers for years. Somebody who has suffered a rape, it might not have taken more than a few minutes for that incident to happen, but the person who suffered from it can live with that pain for years and years and years if they do not find an opportunity to process what happened to them and to heal from it. And so that is how trauma can alter our perception of life. It can alter our way of thinking. It can alter the way we show up in different situations. Trauma is a deeply distressing and disturbing experience, and it often irreversible. And so when these traumatic experiences are unchangeable, they may affect us and keep affecting us. They affect us in the moment, and they continue to affect us well into the future. I was telling a client of mine today that we there is so much power in the pain of our past that it can continue to dictate the way we show up every day, and that dictates the way we show up in the future. And the question is, how long do we want to give the pain of the past or even the current pain the power to continue to direct our lives? The truth of the matter is that when we take time to process what happened to us, when we take time to take a look at it, acknowledge it, and begin to heal from it, we can actually see a future that is possible. We can see a future that can be positive, even with what has happened to us. Now, let me share another truth with you. Feelings and emotions are transient. Read my lips. Feelings and emotions are transient. Even the darkest and the most painful days of our lives, they don't last forever. I may still be able to describe the pain of losing my daughter, but I don't feel the sting of it. And it is no longer as raw as it was 30 years ago when I lost her. So, the darkest days of our lives, the most excruciating and painful experiences of our lives, they don't last forever. They don't. They're transient. They change as time goes on. But when you are in that throe of, in the throes of pain, of grief, of trauma, it is very hard for us to imagine that there can be a possible future for us beyond this. And so that's why I am asking you, can you have a glimpse of a future that is possible beyond your painful experience? Can you catch a glimpse of a future that is positive beyond what happened to you that you cannot change? You can't reverse it. You can't change it. But can you see a future beyond it? Evil acts of wickedness and pain persist in our world today. People do dastardly things because we live in a broken world. We can't stop evil from happening. We can't stop bad things from happening. But we can reframe how we perceive them, how we allow these acts that causes us pain to impact us, to affect us, and how long we allow it to, to impact us and to affect us. The harsh reality is that you and I, there's no way we can fix this world. We can't. I mean, if I have that power, if somebody asks me, what kind of superpower would I like to have? Believe me, the superpower that I would like to have would be to end evil, to end injustice, to end wickedness. But we live in a fallen world. Since Jesus told us that in this world we will have trials and tribulations, but we should be of good cheer. He has overcome the world. So no matter how hard we try, no matter how much I desire to, I can't put an end to the evil in this world, to the wickedness in this world, to the things that causes us pain in this world. And it's a matter of when we will go through one painful experience or the other for as long as we are living in this broken and fallen world. And if then that be the case, how can you and I look beyond the pain, the suffering, the hurts that happens in this world? And this is why I love the Bible, because there are promises in the Bible that assures me that there is a hope beyond the pain. There is a hope of a future. There is a future filled with hope that is possible beyond the pain. And we can aim for restoration that comes in the place of healing. So the truth is, you and I can heal from what happened to us. And when we have that opportunity to heal, we can catch a glimpse of a future that is possible. We can have a future that is not directed and dictated by our past painful experiences. In this world, like I said, we would have tribulations, we would have trials. But when we trust in the word of God and we hold on to the promises of God, we know that there is a hope for us beyond the pain and the suffering that our world today offers, the discouragement, the disappointment. I can say, yes, this has happened, but this is not the definition of my life. This is not the totality of my existence. This is just one chapter in the story of my life. And I read one brilliant author that said that don't put a full stop where God has put a comma. That means that when life happens to you, don't make that the final chapter of your life. When painful experience, traumatic experience happens to us, we cannot afford to make that the final chapter. There is another chapter that can come after, a chapter that is filled with hope, a chapter that is filled with possibility of joy, irrespective of what has happened to us. Even when we grieve the loss of our loved ones, there is another chapter that can come out of that grief. We can use the memories that we shared with our loved ones to create something beautiful. In the pain, in the midst of our grieving, we can actually bring out memories that will bring hope to others. I've lost a child before. I have friends that have lost children, and it pains, it hurts, it hurts, it hurts, it hurts deep. But we can transform that pain to something that is useful, something that is significant, something that is meaningful, and something that has eternal value. I can say today that the death of my daughter is not in vain, because her testimony of a very short life has brought encouragement and hope to other moms who have lost babies, to other parents who have lost their babies. So no matter what pain has happened to you, no matter what life has thrown at you, that you can't change. You can't change the past. You can't go back and erase what happened to you. But you can take a look at what happened to you and see what can I bring out of this experience that will be meaningful and useful to take into the future. And that is where the work is. It doesn't happen with a snap of a finger. It cannot be impacted on you by the laying off of hands. It is a choice that you make, that I want to heal. I want to go beyond this pain, and I want to see a future that is possible beyond this pain. You see, the truth is that when we do not heal from what happened to us, when we do not process our pain, acknowledging it, right? And processing it, and then repurposing it, we can stay in the place of emotional numbness. We just become numb. You feel that you can't make sense of what is happening in the world around you. You seem to be just spending all your time going through the motions of life without any meaningful connections. You're not even sure if you are living life, because something is going on under the surface. The pain of what happened to you is just taking you round and round and round and round in a circle. You feel isolated. You feel confused. You are forgetful. You zone out. You're consistently tired. You feel empty on the inside. That is pain talking. That is pain sending you a message that something is going wrong. Something is happening there, and you're yet to acknowledge it. You're yet to deal with it. And feeling this way is called emotional numbness. You feel that you are temporarily disconnected from your body or from your emotions or even from the world around you. You might be even going through your day-to-day activities as usual, but you don't have any emotional connection with it. I've seen people who are hurt in their relationship, and it's as if something has disconnected. They are still in that relationship, but there is no connection. That means something is happening to you at the emotional level. There is emotional pain that you have not dealt with that you need to address. Because even though it looks as if you're getting on with life, you're able to do your usual activities, you know that you come back home to that feeling of emptiness. You are in that place where it's as if you put on a mask to go outside, and when you come back in, you feel the reality of what has happened to you. And when this is happening to us, it becomes difficult for us to feel any joy. You're constantly sad. You can't even express any positive feeling. All you see is a bleak future. It's a bleak future. You can see a future that is possible, that it's positive for you. Now, when we go through such emotional issues, we struggle to process our emotions. We struggle to express the emotions. It is difficult for us to make sense of what you're even feeling. I was talking to a client today and says, and she was trying to explain and explain and explain what she was feeling. And then she asked me, do you understand? Am I making any sense at all? So I said to her, I understand. I know where you are at. The reason why you're finding it difficult to make sense is because of what is happening inside of you that you are yet to deal with. And so life may feel that we cannot make sense out of it. So I keep asking you that question. Can you get to that place where you can see a future that is possible, despite what happened to you that you can't reverse, that you can't change? Can you see a future that is possible? Dare you see a future that is possible? The truth is, we can. It is possible if we give ourselves that opportunity to process what happened to us. And I have few people in the Bible that I have studied that have given me that assurance, that hope that it is possible to, despite what has happened to us that we cannot reverse, to see a future. Look at Joseph. He had dreams, great grand dreams. He was the favorite child of his father. He was so loved. And he also had a way of telling on his brothers. And because he was the favorite child of his father, his brothers hated him. Can you imagine growing up in a family where you're hated by your own siblings? And the hatred is so intense. And he himself didn't help the matter because he was always talking about them to their father. Now, this person so loved, Joseph so loved by his brother, for his father, and hated by his brother, who was the favorite child, found himself in a pit, crying out, crying out. Can you imagine? You know that it is your own people that have done this to you, the pain in the inside of you, walking in red hot desert, the favorite son of his father, who had coats of many colors, is now shackled in chains, drinking from broken vessels, struggling to eat with other slaves. I mean, if you have watched what they do with slaves, you will connect with what I'm saying. But you see, one thing that about Joseph was that he dared to see a future. He did not give up on his dreams. The boy who left his father's house and went through the pit and through the desert was not the same boy that showed up in Potiphar's house. He had grown, he had become matured, and he was said that he had that realization that God was with him. And so everything that he did, he succeeded. He would not even compromise by sleeping with the wife of his boss. That is a principled person who dared to see a future despite what he was going through. He did not compromise because he knew his future was different from what life was presenting to him. He ended up in the prison. But you see, even when he was in the prison, he never forgot his dreams. He kept being the best version of himself. He has gone through painful experiences, rejection, false accusation, yet he kept bringing the best version of himself into everything that he was doing. And people noted that, yes, there is something different about this person. Question is, when life happens to us, when life happens to you and I, do we show up at work the best version of ourselves? Can people see the way we are bearing up under our painful experiences and say that there is something different about you and I? But that can only be so if we dare to see a future beyond our pain. If we dare to look beyond our pain to see something that is possible. Look at Ruth and Naomi. Naomi lost husband, 2 sons. Ruth lost her husband. And yet Naomi said, I heard that God has visited Bethlehem. Let's go back. Perhaps there is something there for us. She was willing to embark on that journey, even though she was aching in pain, even though she called herself bitter, even though she said that God has dealt harshly with her. She was still willing to take that step into a future that is possible. Excuse me. She could have stayed in Moab and say, I've lost all. There is nothing else that can happen to me. If she had stayed in Moab, she would have died a wretched old widow. She would have died a wretched old widow. But she got up. She saw the possibility of a future by going back to Bethlehem. You all know the end of the story if you have studied that in the Bible. And there are many more like that I can bring out. That proves to me that if we reorient our minds, if we change the way we perceive our pain, if we change, reframe the way we look at what happened to us, we can see a future beyond that pain. And it is important that we make that effort, that we dare to see a future beyond that pain. Otherwise, we will be stuck in the place where life happens to us. We'll be stuck in that place. Life happened to Hannah. She wanted to have a child. She was desperate to have a child. Her partner, Peninnah, had children and was mocking her. The Bible says that Peninnah provoked her sore, made fun of her, jeered at her. Hannah could have stayed weeping. How could she do this to me? How could she do this to me? It's bad enough that I have to deal with childlessness. I also now have to deal with this person who kept poking at me and poking at me. Doesn't she understand my pain? Does she understand what it feels like to be a childless mother, waiting for a child, trusting and praying, begging, and it seems as if nothing is happening? year in, year out. Despite all her husband's effort, it didn't make any difference for her. But she took matters in her hand because she dared to see a future that is possible. And she went and prayed and made a covenant with God. If you give me a child, I will give him back to you. You see, my friends, the way we frame our painful experience is critical. It will help us to see a future that is possible. That even in the midst of our pain, when opportunities come for us to compromise, we will say, no, no, I will not compromise. I will not use a wrong means to get the future that I desire. I will not use a wrong means to get the dream that I desire. But I will stay focused. How can we see a future beyond our pain? You have to feel, you have to believe that the pain that you're feeling in the moment is not permanent. No matter how excruciating that pain may be, no matter how much it hurts you, you have to believe and understand that that pain does not define you. It's not permanent. It's not going to be there forever. It will lose its sting. No matter how long that pain persists, it will lose its sting. Because if you don't believe that that pain is not permanent, it will be difficult for you to see a future beyond it. So that is the first step. You must believe that your pain is not permanent. It's not going to always hurt. It will heal if you allow it. There is a healing that is possible for you. You can heal from what happened for you. You can heal from your emotional pain. And once you are ready, once you're willing, you can go through that journey of healing and restoration to wholesomeness. You see, if you don't give yourself that chance to heal, you're putting a full stop to what can be a comma. You're allowing that incident to be the final chapter of the story of your life. And I believe that that is too much power to give to something that happened to you. That it will now be the thing that will continue to dictate your life forever. That is too much power. And you can harness that power. You can take back your power and rewrite the story. You can write a new chapter. And it starts with framing what happened to you and your healing with the truth of God's word. What happened to you does not define your identity. The one who created you in his image is the one that defined your identity. For many years, because I coughed nonstop every day for 20 years, every day, actually needs to count the number of days that would have been 20 times 365 days, nonstop, coughing. And it caused me excruciating pain. My chest was burning. And people started calling me that woman with the cough. Ah, this your cough. Hey, Dr. Lume said, this your cough. Ah, now, wow, this your cough. I lost the count of the number of times that they labeled me with my affliction. Maybe you too have been labeled by your affliction. I recall that it was one day I was in the plane flying, that I was talking, meditating on labels that people put on us. And I had to say to myself in that plane, and during that flight, that Irene, you are going to reject every label of affliction. The cough is not yours. You suffer from the cough. As chronic as this disease may be, I refuse to take ownership of an affliction. I refuse to take ownership of pain. I refuse to take ownership of what happened to me. And my dear friends, you must get to that place where something snaps on the inside of you and you begin to tell yourself that I am not what happened to me. But of course, you need to know your true identity for you to be able to say that with confidence, with boldness. I am not what happened to me. I am who God created me to be. I am the expression of God's imagination. I am created for signs and wonders. These experiences, they will all add up. They are processing me to become. And I say, if you have that mindset, if you begin to frame your thoughts with such confessions, with such beliefs that is based on the truth of God's word concerning you, my dear friends, you will see that you will position yourself to write another chapter beyond what happened to you. So you need to know the truth concerning you so that you can embrace a future that is possible, a future that is positive, a future that is filled with hope. You can trust God's wisdom when you don't understand why what happened happened. And you can trust that there is something that you can mine out of this experience, something you can learn out of this experience that you can use to bring hope to others. Your story can be your story and how you overcame can become a testimony that will encourage many more people. In one of the lives that I will be doing this month, I'm going to share the story of of my clients who gave me the permission to share her story. She was raped, but she got to a place 30 years later that she had to say, this incident cannot continue to define my life. But that was after it had robbed her of 30 years. So whatever the pain that happened to you, whatever that happened to you can get to that place where you put a full stop. No, you can't continue to rob me of my peace. You can't continue to rob me of my joy. You can't continue to rob me of a future that is possible. One of the things that you can also do is to journal. I encourage my clients to journal. There is a healing process that comes from being able to express those things that are going on in the inside of you in a safe place. And I want to do it for my clients to create that safe place where the shame, the guilt of what happened to them can be expressed in a way that it can be reframed to be positive, to from a place of pain to the place of hope. And journaling is very useful, especially when we're dealing with grief. Journaling helps you to remind you who you are. Because as you're journaling and you're framing it with the truth of God's word concerning you, you can go back to it and read it. Journaling helped me in those 20 long years that I was dealing with chronic diseases and all the other things that came with it. And you know what? All the things that I journaled down, all the things that I was taking notes of became a book. I was able to pull it all together when I wrote my book, Grace in the Storms. People ask me, how did you recall this accurately? How could you be so accurate and descriptive in the things that you were writing, despite the number of years that had transpired? Because I was journaling. I had my notes, how I was healing, how I was processing each experience, and what I was learning from each of those painful experiences that spanned more than 20 years of my life. And today, Grace in the Storms is available to show people that it is possible to go through life-challenging experience and come out on the other side by the grace of God. I put that the title is Grace in the Storms, a Living Proof, that I am a living proof of God's grace that sustains us when life happens to us. Another thing that you may want to do, especially when the pain is raw and active, is to practice deep breathing. It's so calming when you take time to do deep breathing. And there are ways of doing it. Of course, I can't share that with you here online, but you can. We can do that on another live where I can teach you how to do the kind of deep breathing that is therapeutic, that can help you to calm your nerves, that ensures that all the fears that are flying, all the emotions, all those hormones that are all over the place, and all the signs, the signals that your brain is processing can calm down. And your breathing can become steady, your heart rate can become steady. Deep breathing is very useful in helping us to manage what happened to us so that we can see a future beyond it. It reminds you that you have some control. Not everything is out of your control. What happened to you was out of your control. You didn't have any control over what happened to you, but you sure do have control over what you do with what happened to you. And part of the ways of gaining back your control over what happened to you is to repurpose it so that you can see a future beyond it. Take care of the basics. Take care of the basics. Take care of you. When you're going through the pain, you need to take care of you. You need to eat. You need to drink lots of water. You need to have good nutrition, good hydration. You need to find a way to sleep. I was encouraging one of my clients. I said, you can't stay up all night worrying about tomorrow that you have not yet seen. You're worrying about what is going to happen tomorrow. And tomorrow is going to come and go. And all the things that you worried about did not happen. And yet tonight again, you're going to start worrying again about tomorrow. And tomorrow will come and go. And none of the things that you were anxious about happened. So why don't you just calm down? So now I taught her how to do the deep breathing, the breathing exercises in the night. And now she has decided that even that's where she's going to do her Bible study. And she finds herself slipping off because she is learning that I don't have control over tomorrow, but I have control over how I'm going to process it in the moment. If I'm going to live with anxiety and with fear of what may happen tomorrow because of what happened to me, I'm going to lose the joy of this meeting at the moment, and I'm going to arrive at tomorrow tired, exhausted. Even when opportunities do show up tomorrow, I'm unlikely to see it. It's also good to do exercises. Life has happened to you. You feel isolated. You want to just keep by yourself. You want to just cover yourself with your duvet and just stay in bed. I don't have to get up, don't have to eat. You are in such an emotional pain that you want to lock out the whole world. That is when you say no to that urge. You get out of bed, walk outside, go outdoor, breathe in fresh air, enjoy the beauty of nature, do exercises, go to the gym. And when what happened to you has made you store up so much anger in the inside of you, go let it out in the gym. And don't give the person who hurts you the power to continue to determine your life. Because that's sometimes what happens when our pain is occasioned by the wrongful action of others. We also allow them to have the power to continue to dictate how we are acting. They gaslight us. Even if the person is so far away from you, they're still controlling. Even when what happened to you is decades away, they're still controlling how you're living today. Wow, that is too much power to give to the person who hurts you, to continue to hold you down in the place of pain, to continue to control you, how you respond, how you behave. You need to get it out of your state system. Don't stay stationary. Don't stay isolated. Look for something that you can enjoy. Find good friends that you can talk with. And when you find it difficult to cope with these emotions, my dear friends, seek for professional help. There are therapists, there are counselors, there are trauma coaches like me who can work with you to resolve what happened to you. Remember that your traumatic events does not have to define you. It does not need to be the final chapter of your life. There is a life, a future that is filled with hope beyond your pain if you will give yourself the opportunity to heal from what happened to you. I've shared some of the things that you can do. Be patient with yourself. Your grieving takes time. There is no one cup fit all for grieving. Your grieving process is individual for you. Your healing process is individual for you. Be patient with yourself. Grieve your loss, the loss of a future that you anticipated from that relationship, the loss of the child, the loss of whatever it is that you have lost. Take time to grieve it. Be compassionate with yourself. Be kind to you. Take care of you so that you can position yourself to see a future beyond your pain. Remember that no matter what has come your way, no matter what has happened to you, support is available for you. You have to choose to get that support. That is your decision. There is a future that is possible for you. You have to want it. You have to desire it. Your life does not need to end in the place where pain happened to you, in the place where life happened to you. And that's what this group is all about. This page is all about. That we can learn useful experience. We can learn useful lessons from what happened to us so that we can transform our pain to purpose, to profit, and to power. We can learn to harness the power of pain and use it for something meaningful and significant. If you're that person, you can still join us for the Profit of Pain course that just started off last Saturday. It's a 10-week course. But if you are interested in transforming your pain, in going beyond what happened to you to see a future that is possible, join us in the class. You will see the link on my page in the bio, and I'll put it as a comment after this live show. You can click and join us in the class and see what is possible beyond your pain. I'm a living proof that something beautiful can happen to you beyond your painful experience. And I have seen it happen over and over and over again, irrespective of what kind of pain you have had to endure or suffer from. Your pain is a raw material. You can transform it, you can process it. And you will find resources on this page if you follow us on Instagram and on Facebook. There are ample resources that can help you to walk through what has happened to you. And if you're interested in having one-on-one coaching, don't hesitate to send me a DM. And lastly, if you missed the webinar last Tuesday, I am hurting. I can't let go of the pain, and you want to have the replay, please send me a DM or an email at irene.graceinthestorms at graceinthestorm without the S, irene.graceinthestorm at gmail.com. We'll be very happy to share with you a replay of the webinar. It's been a wonderful time spending this evening with you. By the grace of God, I will be back again next week. Next week is an important week of my life that I celebrate every year. It's going to be 10 years beyond lung transplant. I received organ donation, lung transplant 10 years ago. And it is those lungs that are expanded in my chest today, given to me by an unknown benefactor, that has kept me alive to do what I'm doing today. And next week, I'm going to be celebrating 10 years. I'm going to honor the memory of my organ donor who had to die for me to live. And I'll be sharing my testimony of how I processed and worked through that period of my life waiting for organ transplant. And that will be on Thursday, April 13th, 10 years exactly when I received the new lungs. So if you are available, join me next week, Thursday. Of course, we'll have the usual Tuesday, but there will be a special event next week, Thursday, which we will announce on the pages, if you follow me, how join me to celebrate 10 years of life, 10 years of second chances, and to honor the memory of my organ donor, the one who died so that I can live. And I will be forever grateful for the precious gifts of these lungs that are expanding with praise in my chest today. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. I look forward to seeing you again next week, Tuesday, as we talk about going beyond our painful experiences to find purpose in it and through it. Whatever your story may be, there is a hope of a future beyond that pain that you cannot reverse. There is a hope of a positive and possible future beyond what happened to you that you cannot change. And I want you to catch a glimpse of that future and let it help you to process that pain today so that that future can become your reality. God bless you real good. Thank you for joining me tonight. And if you have any takeaway from what you have heard, please share it in the comments. It will be lovely to hear what you have been able to take away tonight. Until next week, happy Easter. God keep you and make his face to shine on you. And may you experience the healing that is possible beyond your pain. Good night.